Are transparent ghosts, outer space aliens and hairy Sasquatches roaming military bases in Georgia? Jim Miles, a Georgia author of 14 books, said he uncovered enough stories from witnesses and published accounts that he was able to write a book about these entities lurking where men and women train to become soldiers. There are a few ghosts at every military installation, said Miles, who over the years has made trips to Athens and Watkinsville for book signings. It seems like most of the ghosts at military bases are those of soldiers trying to return home. In his newly published book, Mysteries of Georgia's Military Bases, he tells about strange and sometimes unnerving encounters with unknown entities at the state's military bases, including Fort Benning, Fort Gillem, Fort Gordon, Fort Stewart, Moody Air Force Base and others. I grew up around major Air Force bases. All my life, my parents worked at air bases, the retired teacher said. Early on I was interested in UFOs. The UFO sightings were very common and they were taken fairly seriously. Miles has written numerous books about legends and mysteries including Weird Georgia and Civil War Ghosts of North Georgia. While researching material for these books he found numerous Bigfoot stories and ghost stories at military bases, and this gave him the idea for the book. Fort Benning is the most haunted one in Georgia. It has produced hundreds of thousands of soldiers from World War I until the present, Miles said. Every base has UFO sightings, but they are concentrated over the Air Force bases. I live in Warner Robins and Robins Air Force Base is 5 miles from my home. They have had some impressive sightings. The Bigfoot sightings are mostly at large Army bases, in particular Fort Gordon and Fort Stewart, both which contain or are surrounded by thousands of acres of woodlands. There are swamps and rivers and isolated backwoods. If Bigfoot is a real biological creature, that's the kind of place you think you would find one prowling around, he said. Miles also writes about a bird kill in 1954 in which about 50,000 birds were killed at Robins Air Force Base. The birds were flying in bad weather and as they approached the air base, there were light beams shining up to measure the cloud ceiling and it disoriented the birds who flew into the ground and buildings. This is the biggest bird kill in recorded history, Miles said. Miles has an interesting theory about these mysteries that tease humankind. I've decided that all of these things, UFOs, Bigfoot, and ghosts, all come from the same source, he said. They show up, they seem to be physically present, but there is never any evidence. It's some type of phenomenon that plays with the human imagination and we've had this forever. The Cherokee Indians of Georgia had as vivid a mythology as any society. They had their own creatures including fairies, gods, and monsters. This has been around, worldwide for a very long time, said the man who travels far and wide examining the state's mysteries.